destroyed walls, piles of ruins, and only one surviving facade of the building are all that remain of the Russian Orthodox Church, built in the honor of the Transfiguration of the Lord, founded in 1894 and located 13 kilometers from the center of the Kochevent region of Azerbaijan. During the years of occupation, the Armenian armed formations completely destroyed the shrine. 3 of the walls and the building itself was almost completely dismantled into bricks.
Разобрали на кирпичи.
The Kochevent region of Azerbaijan, occupied by the Armenian armed forces in October 1992, was liberated as a result of the 44-day patriotic war in the autumn of 2020. Before the occupation, the region was known for its agriculture. More than 40,000 inhabitants lived here. The area, estimated at 22,500 hectares, was famous for its unique biodiversity and vast forests. Exceptional monuments of nature, as for example the Eastern Plane tree, grew here. During the 28 years of occupation, the Armenian armed formations destroyed about 4,000 hectares of forests. Trees were cut down, transported to Armenia, and moreover, sold abroad illegally. Dozens of villages, residential buildings, industrial and agricultural enterprises, as well as cultural and religious monuments were looted and almost completely destroyed. The Armenian invaders destroyed not only the historical and cultural heritage, but also many religious shrines of both Muslims and Orthodox Christians.
Before the start of the Armenian aggression against Azerbaijan, 67 mosques, 48 tombs, 139 temples and churches were to be found in Karabakh, of which 128 were Albanian and 3 were Orthodox. It is believed that 10 of them belonged to the Armenian Gregorian Church. In particular, in the Kochevent region, there were 56 Albanian churches, 5 non-Albanian churches, 1 Orthodox church, 1 mosque and 4 tombs.
The temple in honor of the Transfiguration of the Lord was built in the 19th century, 2 kilometers away from a small settlement in the village of Kuropatkino. The church is of a great value not only as a temple of God but also as a cultural monument. However, in this church the bell ringing has not been heard for a long time. Services are not held and prayers are not offered. The remains of the once majestic building, accommodating up to 1,000 people, where most Orthodox followers, especially Moluccans, made pilgrimages, now raised from a wasteland where there is not a single building for hundreds of kilometers round. According to information in historical documents, the temple in honor of the Transfiguration of the Lord was founded by the 16th Mingrelian Grenadier Regiment during its stay in 1864 and was illuminated in honor of the Transfiguration of the Lord on February 9, 1868. After the departure of the Mingrelian Regiment in 1877, the church came under the jurisdiction of the 2nd Infantry Platoon Battalion. Since 1896, it had been under the jurisdiction of the 1st Sunze Vladikavkaz Regiment. The stone building was built in the shape of a cross, in connection with a bell tower. This is the main type of Orthodox church which still dominates the architecture of ancient Russia.
The village of Kuropatkino was part of the Şuşa district of the Elizavetpol Vilayet at the time when the church started to operate, and got its name the appearance of Kazrat in honor of Jesus Christ. According to historical data, or rather the newspaper Caucasian Calendar, published in Tbilisi, the population of Kuropatkino was Russian, and according to 1912 data, 832 Russians lived in this village. Most of them were Cossacks who served in the 1st Sundesko-Vladikavkaz Regiment of the Cossack units.
The church was regimental and belonged to the Terek Cossack units. In 1894, it was rebuilt in stone and also illuminated. The church was designed for about 1,000 people that was commonly believed to be the size of approximately one regiment, and the regimental priest would have officiated services. Divine services, as elsewhere, were performed. Liturgy, prayers, burials. Cossack units were stationed there. Border troops were stationed there. And naturally, like any army, some kind of spiritual nourishment was required. So a full cycle of services were performed, any kind that was required. Probably they baptized the children of married officers. The Cossacks went there with their families, and it is likely that old people were buried there after their deaths. Everything was undertaken there.
With the advent of Soviet power, the church was closed. Presumably, there was a grocery and agricultural warehouse. During the entire Soviet period, there was never a divine service here, but the locals looked after the church. This is evidenced by photographs from 1992, which clearly show that the church at that time was intact. It had a roof, part of the bell tower, and bars on the windows. Positioning themselves as the defenders of the entire Christian world in the South Caucasus, the Armenian invaders committed a real act of vandalism against this Russian Orthodox Church. Now we are inside the church. The vegetarian that we see here indicates that the temple has come into despair, a state in which it has been for perhaps 2 decades. However, if we turn to history, the footage shows that the church was not damaged during the First Qarabağ War. The state in which we see it today dates from the beginning of the 21st century.
The state that it is now in, of course, is scary. The heart bleeds. There is no roof, trees grow in the middle of the temple, everything is destroyed. Some Armenian names are vandalized, and some Armenian inscriptions are written there. So it's clear that the temple is destroyed. But why desecrate the temple? Why write such nasty things there? It's not clear whose names those are.
This is not the only example of the desecration of a shrine by the Armenian armed formations. During the years of occupation, another Orthodox church, St. John the Baptist, built in 1847 in the city of Şuşa, was also subjected to an act of vandalism. The church was very revered in Soviet times, although it was closed. Old photographs clearly show that the church had a dome and a bell tower, and as is well known, domes are not a part of the Armenian tradition. After the occupation of the city of Şuşa by the Armenian armed forces in 1992, the Russian Orthodox Church was illegally rebuilt as an Armenian church. The dome was removed from it, and the domes were removed from the bell towers. They were replaced by the attributes of the Armenian church. The Armenians changed the traditional rounded dome to a cone-shaped one and call it the Temple of the Armenian Apostolic Church. The question arises as to why the Armenians did not Armenianize this Russian Orthodox Church in the Kochevent region of Azerbaijan as well. We can only assume that the answer is the location. The temple stands in the steppe 2 kilometers from the nearest settlement. During the period of the Armenian occupation, there were no parishioners here, which means that there was no need to Armenianize this temple or to rebuild or even restore it.
They understood. They knew that they were temporarily there. They knew that this was not their land. And they knew that they were invaders, aggressors, and therefore they did not care about this church. What happened? Why did it collapse? They did not care at all. But of course it's a shame. Of course it's a shame that this was happening.
The leadership of Armenia was undoubtedly aware of this, since there was a military training ground very close to this place. The church served as a target, as evidenced by numerous traces on the facade of the building from large caliber shells. Moreover, the area was mined, both outside and inside. We were able to get here only after Azerbaijan cleared the area of mines. Calling themselves true Christians, the Armenians destroyed many Christian shrines to the ground, converted Albanian temples into Armenian churches in order to demonstrate the historical heritage of Azerbaijan as part of their own culture. So, for example, the Agoglan temple in the Laçın region, the Ganjasar temple in Agdara, and the Khudavang temple in Kalbajar were all transformed into Armenian monophysite churches. The Armenian territorial claims and military aggression against Azerbaijan began in the late 18th and early 19th of the last century. The conflict took the form of a large-scale war, which was accompanied by ethnic cleansing and genocide of the Azerbaijani people. 20% of Azerbaijani lands were under Armenian occupation. More than 1 million people became refugees and internally displaced persons. For almost 3 decades, Armenia has ignored 4 UN Security Council resolutions, demanding the immediate and unconditional withdrawal of all occupying forces from the territory of Azerbaijan. Not one of the attempts from Baku to resolve the conflict peacefully has yielded any results. On September 27, 2020, in response to another military provocation by the Armenian armed forces, the Azerbaijani army launched a wide-ranging counteroffensive that ended in a glorious victory and the restoration of the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. For the entire period of the 44-day patriotic war, the valiant Azerbaijani army, under the leadership of Supreme Commander-in-Chief President Ilham Aliyev, confidently moved forward, day by day, freeing new villages and cities from Armenian invaders. Realizing that Armenia would not be able to win on the battlefield by military means, the Armenian leadership decided to resort to the weapon that it had been using for decades: false Armenian information propaganda. The leadership of Armenia, as well as representatives of the Armenian diaspora in a number of countries, decided to give the conflict a religious character. Or rather, they called upon the Christian world to oppose Azerbaijan, positioning the war as a war between Christians and Muslims. The liberation of the ancient city of Şuşa, the pearl of Qarabağ, from the Armenian occupation on November 8, 2020, broke the back of the enemy forces and marked the end of the war. Armenia shamefully lost the war and was forced to sign a trilateral statement with Azerbaijan and Russia on November 10 of the same year, implying the voluntary liberation of the 3 regions of Azerbaijan that remained under occupation at that time: Kalbajar, Agdam, and Laçın. An attempt to play the religious card, presenting the war as an interreligious conflict between Muslims and Christians, while expressing concern about the fate of Christian monuments in Qarabağ, backfired against Armenia. Destroyed during the years of Armenian occupation, the Russian Orthodox Church in the Kocaman region of Azerbaijan is the clearest example of how Armenia used the religious factor only in words. In reality, they destroyed or rebuilt both Orthodox and Muslim shrines.
This is a fairy tale. This is an Armenian myth for the whole world, asking for help and saying that Christians are being destroyed. It has never been like this and cannot be, especially from Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has never been the first to try to attack or destroy anyone, especially on religious grounds. Just look into our history. For many centuries there have never been interfaith conflicts on the territory of Azerbaijan, because the mentality of the Azerbaijani people is completely different. Azerbaijanis are not disposed to differentiate whether they have Georgians, Jews, Tatars or Russians next to them. No, this is my neighbor, this is my friend. People are not divided by nationality. That we, the Azerbaijanis, are supporting an anti-Christian direction is complete nonsense. This is just an Armenian myth, exaggerated to the point of impossibility and presented to the whole world that Christians are being beaten. In fact, go around Baku, go around Azerbaijan and look. Christian objects are all standing untouched. They are being restored. Divine services are freely performed in them.
Реставрируется, все, у них свободно совершается богослужение.
Azerbaijan is one of the few Muslim countries in the world that has implemented many projects for the restoration of Christian religious monuments in the Vatican. With the support of the Haydar Aliyev Foundation, funds were allocated for repair work in the Vatican, including the restoration of the Sistine Chapel, the restoration of 2 catacombs, the preservation and creation of digital copies of ancient manuscripts in the Vatican Apostolic Library. All this is a good example of how Azerbaijan is involved in the restoration of shrines. While Armenia was destroying or Armenianizing Orthodox shrines in the occupied Azerbaijani lands, the Armenian church in Baku was protected and restored as an architectural monument of Azerbaijan. The church is included in the list of immovable historical and cultural monuments protected by the state, approved by the decree of the Cabinet of Ministers of August 2, 2001.
The protection of religious temples in our country, the repair and construction of religious monuments and places of worship belonging to different religions, is the main priority of the religious policy of our state. The state repairs or restores historical and architectural monuments, mosques, churches and synagogues, as well as shrines of all religions, without discrimination of religious denominations, both within the country and abroad.
Религиозных конфессий как внутри страны, так и за ее пределами.
The cathedral where we are now was built in its present form in stone in 1909. In Soviet times, it was also closed. In 1991, when Azerbaijan gained independence, the government of Azerbaijan returned this temple to the Russian Orthodox Church. For 20 years now, more, almost 30 years, we have been performing divine services here. You know, 2 buildings in our yard were built by order of the President. At the opening of our spiritual center, the President himself came here. Our national leader, Haydar Aliyev, came to the opening ceremony of this temple. There were public figures, there were diplomats. How can anyone speak of an anti-Christian attitude here?
Этого храма приезжал наш национальный лидер Гейдар Алиевич. Были общественные деятели, были дипломаты. То есть как можно говорить об антихристианском отношении?
With the coming to power of national leader Haydar Aliyev, all the necessary conditions were created in Azerbaijan for the restoration of religious shrines closed during the Soviet period on the territory of the country. Important work has been done aimed at preserving the religious, spiritual and national values of the people. President Ilham Aliyev successfully continues the policy of the great leader in this area. All Orthodox shrines in the territories of Azerbaijan not affected by 30 years of occupation are in excellent condition. By order of the President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev and the government of Azerbaijan by 2020, all the churches in Azerbaijan, starting with the cathedral, had been restored.
Thank God, God restored justice. Azerbaijan restored its territorial integrity, and I'm sure that under the leadership of our president and our government, the Karabakh region will flourish even brighter than it did in Soviet times. Because I am sure that both our president and our government and our people want to hear children's laughter there again, to see happy families and to listen to birdsong. So there will never be shots heard again, and peaceful life will be developed. Not only economically, but also spiritually and, of course, culturally too.
Никогда не было больше слышно выстрелов, а мирная жизнь развивалась не только развивалась экономически, но и духовно, и, конечно же, культурно тоже.
Modern Azerbaijan demonstrates to the world a model of religious tolerance. For decades, representatives of various religious confessions have coexisted peacefully and amicably in the Republic of Azerbaijan. The country's leadership pays special attention to maintaining Orthodox churches, Muslim mosques, and synagogues. Therefore, there is no doubt that Azerbaijan, in the shortest possible time, will restore all the cultural monuments, mosques that Armenia destroyed during the period of occupation of Azerbaijani lands. Peace and prosperity will come to these lands again.
Мир, благосостояние и процветание.